All right, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Before we get going, I do want to let everyone know that this call will be recorded and it will be posted to our website later this week. My apologies, my screen is here and my camera's here, so I'll be looking in this direction. As you all probably know, the NTA dropped a new policy notice on June 6th that significantly changed how NBO is required to select subgrants. Our office has been working tirelessly to outline how we will accomplish the task in front of us by NTIA's September 4th deadline. We understand that you may have questions and concerns, and this call is designed with those in mind. However, we will not be taking questions during the call. If you still have questions following the call, we ask you continue to send those questions to the grants inbox at nbo.grants@nebraska.gov. This helps ensure that we provide information equally to all applicants and continue to run a fair and competitive grant program. Again, the only information that will be binding is that is in writing. Let's go ahead and get started. So we have an overview here of what we'll be covering today. We'll start with a high-level overview of the major changes and how our office is implementing NTA's new requirements into the NB program. Next, we will go over the impacts to the NB inventory and our DPA map. Then we'll walk through a draft timeline to meet NTIA's aggressive 90-day deadline. We'll also demonstrate please mute, by the way, everyone that's in the call right now, please mute. We'll also demonstrate the updated scoring rubric and highlight some changes you can expect to see on the DPA map. Finally, Dr. Diane Lowe will provide a deeper dive into how subgrantee selection will look and get into more specifics on updates to the application process. Super fun. Major changes. So I want to go over the most significant changes to the program. And the most significant thing you will notice when you see the new project application is how short it is. In its printed form, it has gone from 37 pages to just 6. So it's really short. This is mostly due to the number of reductions in application requirements. Diane will speak more specifically about this in a little bit, but broadly speaking, the biggest impacts are the NEPA, labor and workforce, and engineering sections being removed from the application portion of the process. Additionally, you'll see other sections completely removed as well. So those are some big ones. I do want to point out that although these changes have helped streamline the application process, they will still have to be completed prior to subgrants being awarded. The other big change was around technology. The policy notice outlines that all technology that meets the requirements of BEAD must be scored equally. The outcome of that is simple. The lowest cost wins, which I'll be covering exactly how that will be accomplished in a little bit. With the implementation of tech neutrality, the definition of priority projects was also updated. The term priority broadband project now refers to a project that provides broadband service at speeds of no less than 100 megabits per second for download and 20 megabits per second for uploads, has latency less than or equal to 100 milliseconds, and can easily scale speeds over time to meet the needs of households and businesses. The main difference between priority and non-priority is the scalability. If you're making the case that your project qualifies as a priority broadband project, your narrative must clearly show that the proposed solution is scalable to meet future needs. Additionally, we are required to reopen organization applications, and we'll be offering another opportunity for any other interested parties to apply. If you've already become an approved applicant, you do not need to engage in this stage of the program. Lastly, we want to acknowledge the significant time and effort invested by both applicants and our team during the first project application round. Unfortunately, under NTA's new guidance, we are now required to conduct what they call a benefit of the bargain round. The biggest impact of this requirement is that all BEAD eligible locations must be included on the map, meaning we cannot make any preliminary awards from the first PA round. Diane will go into this later. Changes to the map. So now let's talk about how it's impacted the map. As part of NTIA's guidance, we are required to optimize BEAD eligible locations through a defined series of steps. We completed the unlicensed fixed wireless verification process back in March of this year and have satisfied the current requirements per NTIA. Because of the tech-neutral position of the program, all verified unlicensed fixed wireless locations meeting BEAD requirements have been removed from our inventory and are now classified as served on the map. We received NTIA's list of defaulted locations ahead of schedule, which included one RDOF default and resulted in 42 locations being added to the map. At the same time, we were required to review and account for locations that no longer qualify for BEAD funding based on updates in the FCC's version 6 fabric. These updates included locations that are not BEAD serviceable or have already been served through private investment. You may recognize these, by the way, as the non-service codes or reason codes. So if it's not supposed to be on the map, if it's like a hay bale or something, then it was removed. If it's already served through private funding, then it's also been removed. So now we can see those impacts on the map. The end result of all of these adjustments is a significantly reduced inventory, roughly about 15,000 or so. That updated list will be submitted to NTIA and will be pending approval at NTIA. With such a major shift in the map, the original designated project areas, or DPAs, no longer made any sense. We took this opportunity to apply lessons learned from round one, and we're going to be approaching the creation of project areas differently this time around. Our goal is to structure these new project areas in a way that makes them more appealing and manageable for providers, ideally encouraging full area applications. We're shooting to have a new DPA map published by next Tuesday, which takes us to the next slide, which is our timeline, which I'm sure you guys will be excited to see. We have dates on here. So here's an overview of how we plan on meeting NTIA's September 4th deadline. We recognize this is a fast-moving and compressed timeline that may seem overwhelming at first. Our team has thoughtfully designed an approach that aims to make participation as straightforward as possible for providers while ensuring the funding remains attractive and all required deadlines and obligations are met. Missing the September 4th deadline could put the entire program and its funding at risk, along with the commitments we've made to Nebraskans. That's why meeting this deadline is critical and why we've structured our approach to balance urgency with clarity and simplicity for providers. So let's walk through some of these key steps. Starting June 24th, pending, of course, NTIA approval, we'll open both the new organizational application and the benefit of the bargain round, or BOB round. The organizational application round will close on July 2nd, and the BOB round will close shortly after on July 7th. Once the application windows close, our office will begin screening and scoring applications with the goal of moving into direct negotiations by mid-July. After that, we will begin finalizing our final proposal. Once that's complete, likely in early August, we'll notify provisionally awarded subgrantees and publish the final proposal for a 14-day public comment period. Once the comment window closes, we'll incorporate any feedback we receive and submit the final proposal to NTIA in late August. I want to stress that this is a very aggressive timeline, and it gives us very little room for delays. With NTIA's looming September 4th deadline, hitting every step of this process is critical, especially since we've already been advised that more guidance is forthcoming. Scoring rubric time. So now that we've covered the timeline and mapping updates, we're going to shift our focus to how applications will be evaluated in the next round. Let's start with the primary criteria. You'll notice that there are 100 points available for both the total amount requested and the cost per BSL. These will both be ranked separately. The lowest cost will be awarded 100 points, next lowest 99, etc., etc. The two scores will then be added together for a maximum score of 200 points in these categories. The message here is simple: lowest cost wins. However, applicants can and have in the past submitted applications that do not cover the entire DPA. Naturally, because these applications would be serving less than 100% of the BSLs contained within the DPA, the amount requested would be less than if they had served the entire DPA, naturally. So we have to create an even playing field concerning scoring. NBO concerning scoring will be extrapolating the average cost per BSL of an application to apply to all locations within that DPA, i.e., if an application submitted for 50 out of 100 of the locations at $1,000 per location, we'll take that total cost of $50,000 for the entire project and double it to $100,000 when we evaluate it against other competitive applications that serve the entire DPA. This ensures an apples-to-apples comparison and provides a consistent basis to evaluate applications solely on cost. It is important to note that the applicant is not required to serve BSLs which they did not directly apply for. This is solely for scoring and evaluation purposes to ensure a fair and competitive process. Moving on to the secondary criteria, should the cost of any application be within 15% of the lowest cost application, we will then move on to secondary criteria. Here, the speed of network is worth 30 points and date of deployment is worth 20. These will be ranked against competitive applications for the same DPA, and the winner will be awarded the full points. For example, if provider A will provide 100 over 20 and provider B will provide 100 over 100, provider B would win the 30 points and provider A would get 0. Should they offer the same speeds, resulting in a tie, they would both be awarded 30 points. Similarly, for the date of deployment, the earliest date of completion will win the full 20 points. Again, in the event of a tie, both will be awarded 20 points. In that instance, it'll default back to the lowest cost. And again, the main message is the lowest cost wins. Finally, 1 point is granted for provisionally selected subgrantees, a point guaranteed for all applicants, and is required to be included in our scoring rubric. Now, I get the joy of turning you guys over to Dr. Diane Lowe, who will walk you through the updated subgrantee selection process and how it fits together. Diane, take it away.
Good afternoon. Rachel, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, just want to make sure. Sorry, because sometimes that's weird. So I will walk through this stuff quickly. The Bob Round OAs, as Patrick noted, we will be reopening an OA portal. If you are already an approved applicant and you are on our list on our website, which is listed there, you do not have to do this again. You do not need to repeat the OA. The Bob Round OA will open the same day as the Bob Round PA. You will need an authentication code to submit your PA, just as you did in the original round one of this. So we have set the closing date for the OA a couple days ahead to give us time to issue you that authentication code so you can then submit a PA in the Bob Round. So I just want you to be aware of that. That is still a thing. We are going to post the list of requirements for the OAs to our website that she's got listed there. So you'll watch for that in the next couple of days. Next slide, please. Again, this is about authentication codes and organizational abbreviations. We need to make sure that the PAs are submitted by authorized representatives of the applicant organizations. So that is the point to the authentication code. We will email them to those who were qualified with their OAs. If you're already on the approved applicants list, we will send them to you the day before we open the Bob Round PA. So you will have them, you will not wait on us. If you submit an OA during the Bob Round, as soon as we receive it, we will send you out that authentication code. The same is true of the organizational abbreviations. We are going to reissue them and correct the little errors that were in some of them with apologies. Those are helpful to us. Please use them as we provide them. And please, as you're going through, we saw this in the first round, we'd like to avoid it in the second. Please ensure that you assign a unique name for each PA. Even if it's for the same DPA, you can add a number or an abbreviation for the technology to the end of the file name. Just make it easy on us. If we end up with 4 of them that are all Diane wants this one titled that way, then that's not going to work for us. It makes it really confusing. Next slide, please. Changes to the OA were minor, very minor. So I'm just going to show you both of them. That's how many there were. We're a whopping 2. We did de-emphasize the technology, but we do still need to know what you're planning for. Next slide, please. And we reduced the number of certifications to pull out the labor and workforce pieces. So table 4 was much bigger. Now it is shorter. That's it. That's all the changes we made to the OA. Next slide, please. The PA contents, as Patrick noted, we kept to a minimum. We only included basic applicant information, which we have to have contact information we have to have, essentials for the scoring, the new scoring rubric, and then what we have to have right now to include in our final proposal. Most of what you need for the Bob Round PA, you can copy paste from your round 1 PA. That's allowing for the changes to the DPAs that are coming that you will see. That stuff will have to be updated, but we try to make this as simple as possible. You will have access to the submitted PAs from round 1 in Submittable. You will be able to copy and paste from them. Next slide, please. Table 1 of the new Bob Round PA is basically, like I said, it hasn't changed a lot. Applicant name, your UEI, the targeted DPA, the legal description of that DPA, contact information, and a brief description. None of that should be new. Next slide, please. This is a new question. We do have to ask a question about technology. This is part of our scoring criteria. If we're going to assess the speed of your, or the capabilities of your network, we need to know something about it. So this is new, but this is basically tell us how you meet the definition of a priority broadband project right out of the RPN, the restructuring policy notice. Next slide, please. These are also additions to table 1, but they are pulled from other places. These questions should be familiar from the first round. We just moved them. So the date you plan to complete construction, because that is a scoring criteria. And if your project will pass through or target BSLs on tribal lands, we need to know that because the tribal consent piece is still in place. Although we have asked a question to NTIA about the timing of that. Next slide, please. Table 2 is basically the same as it was before. We did put the upload and download columns in the right order because I know many of you giggled at us for that and said did it to our face, so that's okay. We updated the reason or the non-service codes. We updated the non-BSL codes, and we added a classification column for underserved and unserved, which was required. Will you go to the next slide? The DPAs, as we've noted, will change as a result of the new data from NTIA. We are going to update our table 2s. We will post them so you will be able to download them and complete them. I will get that just as soon as we have the finalized map, we will get those out there and get them posted. So we've got people waiting, just ready to do that as soon as we're ready, as soon as the map is ready. This is something we saw in round 1, so this is caution. Please make sure you complete either column D or column J for every BSL that's listed in the table. Please check to make sure you do so. Several were missing, a handful or just a couple or whatever. We do need them all filled out. Column D is the technology plans, and column J is the reason code. So you're either going to serve it, and here's what you're going to do, or you're not going to serve it, and here's why. We need one of those columns for every BSL. Next slide, please. Your reason codes did shift a little bit. Your new list has 4 as opposed to 7. We've removed 3 and 5 because that's what the new fabric handles. That's what this new data from NTIA is supposed to incorporate. That information is already there, so there's no point in you trying to tell us again. We already know. We should already know. Number 7 is actually for use just by NBO. It's not for use by a subgrantee. If there is a BSL for which you feel that the funding is insufficient, you don't think it's a good financial option for you, use the code 6, please. Next slide. Table 2 also requires, it's actually required in round 1, but we didn't really get excited about it. Now we have to have it. We are required to submit evidence. If you're using any of these reason codes, tell us why it's a hay, prove to us it's a hay bale, prove to us that it's a dilapidated structure that's not habitable anymore, whatever. But here's the evidence. This list is the evidence that NTIA has said that they will accept. You need one piece of evidence per reason code or non-service code. There is a limit within Submittable of 74 files. I'm not sure where the 74 came from. That's just what I found. So you may need to do some merging where you have a PDF and page 1 is the first BSL and page 2 is the second BSL, whatever. Please somehow, some way make it clear which document and or which page addresses each BSL. Don't make us Don't make that too confusing for us, please, because we're going to have to be processing very, very quickly. Next slide, please. Table 3 changes. This was the heavy financial part. This is still the financial part, but it's much lighter. So how much NBO funding is requested for your project as a whole? That's how much money you want from us. How much match are you providing? How much money are you putting in? And then the ILOC stuff, the irrevocable letter of credit requirements are still in place, so we'll still need that information. Next slide, please. And then the rest of table 3 is this table, again, the proportion of dollars that are going to be allocated to each of these costs. You are not giving us a full-on budget and justification at this stage. This is the last question in the PA. You hit submit and you're done. That's how short it is. That's what it's been condensed down to. Next slide, please. Just a heads up and a fair warning, we did pull out a lot. As Patrick said, we pulled out a lot of pieces from the PA. We pared it down so that we could get this piece done very quickly, but that doesn't mean we don't need that information. So we will, between provisional selection and actually executing subgrants, we will need to collect these other pieces. So we've got some outstanding stuff from the OAs, like the audited financial statements, some missing ID numbers, that kind of stuff. We're going to have to collect that. We're also going to have to come back and we need to see network design and diagram, your NEPA plan, detailed budgets and justifications, etc. All of that stuff is required. So we will collect it, but we'll have a little bit longer to do that. We will be trying to do it at PA submission time. And of course, there is more guidance to come for NTIA about the final proposal. So we don't plan for things to shift yet between now and when we launch and collect applications, but it's possible that things will shift after. So fair warning and heads up. Next slide, please. And I turn it back to Patrick.
Yes, thank you, Diane. Thank you for that pretty concise, comprehensive rundown of everything. As a final note, thank you for joining us, and please keep an eye on our website as we'll be posting the updated RFA, DPA Table 2 documents and other supporting information there soon. As always, if you have any questions, please continue to send them to nbo.grants@nebraska.gov. And again, thank you all for attending this call.